surgery. It's not an exact science. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. One of the big objectives of Spine DAO is to bring either the knowledge or the tool at the point of care. So can we compile the knowledge from the literature, and can we develop those tools and make sure that those tools are available when the physician sees the patient? And that's really an implementation issue that we aim to solve.
There's so much innovation just in the publication and the analysis of the data for consumption by AI, because the scale of data we're creating now, it's not useful anymore for humans.
Chinese pharmacologist named Tu Yu went to very old manuscripts of the 4th century in China, and she just read this manuscript, and she found that there was a plant that was used to cure fever. She extracted the adromycin, which is the most powerful anti-malaria drugs apparently, and the reagent suggesting that we will do deeper research. And I'm like, hello Microbiome DAO, let's go. Let's work together. This is real bridge between the old knowledge and modern science. We want to use a predictive model on large labelized dataset. Like imagine a data with some expert, like more than 10 years of surgery practice, saying where is the pain generator, if this patient is an appropriate surgical candidate, and what kind of surgery would be appropriate to train AI predictive model. If you want to drive the research, if you want to contribute, if you want to labelize data, if you want to share your data, join the Spine Club.
Welcome, everyone, to DeSci Pilled. I'm your host, Ryan Bethencourt. Delighted to get this conversation started with the founders of Spine DAO. We're about to dive into a fascinating area of surgery, neurology, musculature, and the skeletal system. As a reminder, it's never financial or scientific or medical advice. We're edutainment. And we're going to have a really good time today exploring the frontiers of science with the Spine DAO team. So, Virginia, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm actually a mechanical engineer, so I'm not like a medical professional. After my mechanical engineering, I did a PhD in biomechanics, and then I stayed in Paris for a couple of years. And one of the surgeons I was working, which is like a very big name, is like probably like the father of modern surgery. He came to see me and he's like, you know what, you need to travel. You need to see something else than Paris. And so he sent me to New York, where I met no, it's not the worst place to be. I met two surgeons. One is actually a pretty old, like very typical French guy, you know, and the other one, like Frank Schwab, is a very analytic person. And I still work with him. So it has been like 20 years. That we're working together in research, in a startup, in everything, basically. And
Virginia, what are the types of biomedical things that you do, are involved in? Because I think that's really interesting to a lot of listeners who are kind of in the science realm or in the crypto realm or just generally interested. What type of biomedical innovations are you involved in?
Yeah, so basically, all my career is in spine. All my research is in spine. And I try really to understand how do patients stand and how the pathology is going to affect the way you stand and the way you function. And we used to think to look at only the spine, but it's a full body problem because when you have a spinal problem, you're going to compensate. So you're going to compensate maybe with the knee, and therefore you're not going to be able to walk correctly. So what I've done with Frank Schwab is really a full body analysis, and try to understand how does the pathology affect the quality of life, affect a daily activity, and then how does surgery will improve this? Because sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work, when it comes to surgery. You know, so far it's not an exact science. So can we identify ahead of the surgery the patients that are more likely to benefit from one treatment versus the other one?
And Virginia, the spine is a magnificent biomedical device, right? It's evolved, but it's magnificent, right? Could you give us a little bit of insight on why the spine is so important to us?
Because it's actually, so there's several functions, in terms of mobility, in terms of protecting, like what we call all the neural elements, so everything that makes that connect our brain to the rest. But what is fascinating about spine is that it's actually quite complex. It's actually quite complex because the articulation are complex. If you look at the knee, it's quite easy, the knee is doing that, and that's it. So it's one joint with 3 elements. The spine is between 2 vertebrae, you actually have 3 articulations. So if you multiply that by the number of vertebrae, it becomes super complex. And that also means that it becomes an area where you can have so many pathology. We don't have one spine disease, and also the aging is affecting the spine. So if you're lucky, you're going to just age and maybe shrink a little bit, and that's it. You're going to become stiff. If you're not lucky, you're going to age and maybe the spine is going to become destabilized. And that's where it's affecting your quality of life. So from a research point of view, it's perfect. I have a lot of work. Yeah. From a clinician point of view, that's make it fascinating, but also quite complex.
Fascinating. It's a fascinating challenge. And I know Vincent's going to tell us a lot more about, how many of us, the scale at which, those of us are affected with back problems. I think many, if not most of our viewers will have also had spine issues. I have. And when you have lower back pain, it is excruciating. You'll do anything to kind of change that. And so, Vincent, why don't you give us a little overview on yourself, and then let's jump into Spine DAO.
Yeah, sure. So I'm a spine surgeon in Périgueux, France, in southwest of France, and I had the honor to meet Virginie 12 years ago, and so I had this luck to go to New York City in her lab, and we were studying about the geometry of the spine and the link between this geometry and health-related quality of life score, like performance score and pain score. And the thing is, the patient that I see in the office, what they complain? They complain about pain, excruciating pain, like you said, having a nerve impinged in the spine is the worst pain. It could be compared to a fracture of the bone. It could be compared of a metastasis, of a cancer, and it's a huge burden for the patient. And also we are dealing with performance, because pain and performance, they are intimately linked, and also emotional issues. Because when you are in pain, your performance decreases, and then it can make you mental. So I do believe that what we do is something crucial, because it's affecting I don't know, maybe 600 million, Virginie. I don't have the exact number, but it's like everybody had some lumbar issue or some neck pain, but not everybody had surgery. And that's what fuel in parts of Spine DAO vision.
Yeah. And go ahead, Virginie.
Well, what Vincent mentioned about the fact that he affect also your emotion, he also goes the other way around. So a patient that is depressed, independently of his spine problem, will actually have worse outcome. So it's not just a mechanical structure that we're trying to heal or to solve. That's part of the complexity of evaluating those patients. You also need to take into account the psychological, the emotional aspect, the social environment. And then from a quality of life, we did a study a few years ago on the extreme patients, so the one that have really big pathology and they're totally deformed. And what we found, we compare that to other classic pathology, like heart disease, hip OA and this kind of stuff. And they are worse than any chronic pathology that you can think of. They're actually at the same level that patient with limited use of arm and leg. So it's really it's really a big issue. As you know,
it's a huge issue.
Experience severe back pain and severe disability.
Yeah, I mean, I think for those of us watching, the scale of the issue is, hundreds of millions to billions of people are affected in their lifetimes with some kind of, skeletal problem, some kind of back pain, and for those of us that have had it, and I have, you pull your back, and you're out. You're literally on the floor until until you can feel better and hopefully start moving again.
Mm-hmm.
And for some people, the feeling better part doesn't happen, right? Like you can't just lie down and it goes away. It just stays. And I think, when we were talking earlier, and we'd love to get this perspective, Vincent, around the work you're doing. I mean, the advanced technologies, AI, robotics, all this sort of stuff hasn't yet really touched deeply spinal surgery, the spine, the back, those kinds of things, right?
No, like for the moment, we use robots, but it's a very limited use case, and it's just at the super early stage of the learning curve. I mean, a robot can put a screw, like one screw, in a patient within like 2 hours or 3 hours. A human can put a screw in like less than 5 minutes. But
it's crazy. Yeah.
The advance in the spine field, I don't think that we aim to solve like stem cell robotics. It's not the value of Spine DAO. What we want to solve at the beginning is like something simple, like from your appointment. Like when you take an appointment with a surgeon, either you have like a limited back pain with like one crisis and it's gone, and you want to know what happened, so you want to have like a neurosurgeon or an orthopedic surgeon advice, or you are in intense pain, you have a paralyzed leg, like it's terrible. The software of appointment for the surgeon, they put you in the same place, like in 2 to 3 months. There is no triage or filtering system, putting a hierarchy in the patient in terms of emergency. And that's
Vincent, which is terrible, right? If these patients are in immense back pain and they can be helped with spinal surgery, and they're waiting 3 months, while there are other patients who maybe need physiotherapy or other things cannot be helped, and both are waiting on the wait list, right?
Exactly. And it's a burden for the patient, but it's also a burden for us. I mean, I see basically 100 patients per week at the office, and I do a surgery on like maybe six or 8. So in more than 90% of the case, I'm like, well, I can show you what you have in the MRI, in the imaging system. We can having some kind of understanding of what you have, but I don't have any tool to fix your problem. It's not putting screws or rods or prosthesis or disc replacement that will solve your problem. So it's difficult for us because you need to know that 100 patients in the office, it's like you spend like 5 to 6 minutes with a patient, and we love to spend like a lot of time to have an understanding of the problem and also to solve problems. So it's super frustrating. And also it's a burden for the payers because like all the insurance and the taxpayers, they are paying for inappropriate care. So it's like huge inefficiencies that we need to correct before thinking about stem cell and robotics for sure.
Yeah. So, and that's the baseline, right? So baseline, 90+%, as high as what? 94% of your time, your valuable time, and this is global, is wasted on patients that maybe would benefit from physiotherapy or other interventions rather than surgery, right? And so it's a huge waste. And one of my favorite sayings is Jeff Bezos's "Your margin is my opportunity." For Amazon, right? It's huge amounts of waste, huge benefits in terms of shorter wait times, ability to actually see a doctor when you're in pain, and you can make a difference, right, Vincent? You can actually do the operation, make a huge difference, and that's where you're starting. You're starting with AI software suite that can quickly screen through patients and bring them up to kind of say, hey, these patients need treatment and quickly. And I'm assuming if they get seen sooner, that's probably better from an outcomes perspective too, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's global, as you said. When I talk to my friend from Latin America, from Japan or China, they have exactly the same problem. Mm-hmm. So a referral, like a true efficient referral system, and it's part of our projects.
I mean, I think this is one of the most interesting challenges globally, which is how do we apply, and this is a global framework, right? How do we apply AI to better healthcare for all of us, right? And for all of us, that's 8 billion people on this planet. I think for those of us in the West, we get great healthcare. You know, we might complain about it. We might have huge wait lists. We might not get the surgeries we want. Might be very expensive, you know, depending on where you are. But our healthcare is better than several billion people's healthcare, where they may never see a surgeon, right? A spine surgeon, even if they have something that's addressable. And so, like, this is the beginning of bringing in AI to healthcare. When you talk to a lot of VCs, by the way, you know, one of the things that they won't touch is AI, like software in healthcare or AI in healthcare, because it's such a regulated business. And I think we have to change our thinking where we have to battle against the regulations that are stifling innovation to help patients. Like we have to actively go against it. So the FDA, the EMEA in Europe, like they slow innovation down. And so that's not fair and that's not right for patients. And so this is the beginning of kind of the attack with AI, with Spine DAO, focusing on helping people with back issues and back problems and spine problems, right?
Yeah. But over the past few years, like from a FDA point of view, you can see like there is a shift. There is a shift like where you can use like software as a medical device. Like some of my friends in a totally different area just got a software, an AI-based software that has been approved for cardiac evaluation. So, and what is nice, like with the FDA, so it's tough, but there is some very clear guideline. And they're open to discussion. So basically, you can make an appointment with the FDA and explain like what you're planning to do or what you have done, and it's an exchange. So I've been like pleasantly surprised with the FDA. Like even with my previous startup, where it was like a software, not AI based, but a software to plan the surgery. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to submit to the FDA. They're going to kill me. And actually now they come back like with some advice and. It's always more work, yeah. So I've been pleasantly surprised.
So it sounds like it's starting to open up. I mean, I'm hopeful that, I think there's a focus with the current administration. They're doing plenty of things that I don't agree with, but one of the things that I'm hopeful of is that they reduce a lot of the regulations, try and get new medicines, new software to market faster for patients. Hopefully, less regulation, faster to the patient, and so that sounds like it's already starting to happen. Right.
And even in the way they evaluate like some of the technology. So if we go back like to spine, let's say there's a new implant that is designed. So the way you evaluate that, you do some mechanical testing, then maybe you need to do a prospective randomized clinical trial, which takes like a long time and is quite expensive. And slowly they're accepting like other modality, such as like a biomechanical evaluation, like a digital twin. So it's not there yet, but at least they are open to have like a mix of the two.
That would be amazing. That would be, honestly, to have a model of a digital twin and how your spine works and how your body works, and to be able to get approvals based off of that to predict where the interventions can happen would be an incredible thing to get approved.
Which, Vincent, do you want to talk about the second project? That's a nice transition.
Yeah, it's a nice transition because it's linked to the first. So I have my surgical patient. I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. I have my 1 out of 10 patient at the office that fits.
And Vincent, so you hopefully used your AI software that you're developing with Spine DAO to screen the right patient, get them seen faster, weeks versus months. Right? They're in there with you. Now what's going to happen next?
So like, I'm like, what do I do with this patient? What is my strategy? Do I just decompress the nerve? Do I change the disc? Do I put screws? Where I put screws? 1, 2, 3 level? Do I do anterior approach, lateral approach? So you need to know that like now, not in the near future, but now, there is a high variability for a given patient. So basically we have a WhatsApp group of more than 100 surgeons all across the world now, and when you present a case, you present a clinical case with clinical features and also morphologic feature, MRI and X-rays. So you have for a given case all spectrum between the microscopic endoscopic decompression to the lumbosacral reconstruction, anterior, posterior, with dozens of screws and cage for a given patient.
And Vincent, just to stop for a moment, for a lot of people that may not have biomedical training, I mean, this is exquisite, right? Like the amount of layers in the spine, right, is just give us an idea of like the amount of layers that just a little piece of spine tissue has. What's in there?
Like skin, muscle, aponeurosis, nerve, cartilage, disc, nucleus pulposus, annulus. Like in terms of functional spine unit, it's super complex, and at the same time, usually you have like marker of instability, marker of compression, marker of discopathy, inflammatory process, and you need to deal with all that kind of process. And we don't have any consensus, basically. Like we don't have any standard of care for a given patient. That's why we want to use a predictive model on like large data set, large labelized data set. Like imagine a data with some expert, like more than 10 years of surgery practice, saying where is the pain generator, if this patient is an appropriate surgical candidate, and what kind of surgery would be appropriate to train AI predictive model. And then you have the follow-up of the patient to see what are the best outcome, worst outcome, what are the complication rates, like rod breakage, non-union infection. And then you can decide the appropriate strategy, mitigate the complication, but also that guarantee a best outcome in terms of pain and performance.
Yeah, so like a co-pilot for spine surgeons, right? Like a co-pilot that can see every single case study ever published all at once, real-time data today, right? Which is impossible. I think most people don't understand the scale just in the spine space. How many publications are published per day, per month? What's the total number? Do we know?
If you look at like spine surgery, not spine health.
So we're going to go as little as possible.
So spine surgery is like 30 publications per day.
30 per day. 30 per day. And you have surgeons who are operating every single day. They're not going to read 30 papers per day. Impossible.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that doesn't include the broader space, right? The like neurology, the musculature, the skeletal system. Like we're talking about thousands of publications per day. Impossible for any one person to read or analyze that.
Yeah. And this literature is actually like pretty rich. So that's actually another project that Vincent is going to talk about because he loves this project. That's his favorite project. But really, like if there is like one of the big objectives of Spine DAO is like to bring either the knowledge or the tool at the point of care. So that because like, some of the tools that we're talking about, we know that they're feasible because several research teams at least develop like part of it, not necessarily like the full spectrum. So it's not like we're coming up with a crazy idea that maybe is not going to be feasible. Like Vincent have done this with this group in France. I'm part of a very large multi-center study group with like 30 different hospitals in the US. So we touch upon can we predict like the outcome of the surgery, but then what do we do with those findings? We just publish. So can we compile the knowledge from the literature, and can we develop those tools and make sure that those tools are available when the physician sees the patient? And that's really an implementation issue that we aim to solve.
And Virginia, one of the big problems, through this exploration we've been doing through DeSci, one of the big problems that we found has really been even these publications themselves. One, they're not accessible. Often they're behind paywalls. And two, the data is not machine readable or easily machine readable. These are like PDFs. So so the machine has to kind of figure out, the AI has to figure out what's the table, create its own table, and obviously creates issues. And so there's so much innovation just in the publication and the analysis of the data for consumption by AI. Because the scale of data we're creating now, it's not useful anymore for humans, unless it's like some transformational paper, like a CRISPR paper or something like that, where it changes everything and creates a new vertical. If you're talking about incremental changes in one of the lumbar discs, that could be missed, but it could be transformational for thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people, right?
Yeah. So I'm going to talk about like the PDF and the paywall, and Vincent is going to tell you like how we are aggregating knowledge from the literature. So there is something that we want to do is create our own journal, like a spine journal, of course.
Fantastic idea.
But it's going to be like totally different from whatever we know right now. So first, it's going to be like a open access, but really like we want to rethink like the format, as you say, like PDF is like antiquated, like. So what if you have access to the information online in a very dynamic way? So maybe you have access partially to some data. Maybe you can play with the graph, say like, what if I filter my patient and only look at like the one that are over 60 years old? How does it change the result? And you can have everything that update in real time. Or if you have a follow-up study, let's say you do a study, you follow your patient during 1 year, and then at one point you have 2-year follow-up. What do we do right now? We write a new paper. But we don't need to write a new paper. We just have to update the previous one. And then there is like 2 components in a scientific paper that are like, so-so. It's the introduction and the discussion. Like most of the introduction could be replaced by AI-generated content, and even like the discussion. So we want something that is more dynamic where the user can interact with it.
And also more adaptive for like cognitive status, like a research that could be understandable for everyone, from the biomechanical engineer, the orthopedic surgeon, neurosurgeon, for the butcher, for the guy that works in the library. So something super adaptive and totally open access. Like we don't want paywalls anymore, and we want the truth machine to be in total open access. That's the goal of Spine Archive. So Spine Archive is a project of Spine DAO, and the archive is, so you have DeSci Journal. DeSci Journal is the research publication. Like all of our research will be published through this anti-PDF method. But we want also to organize all the knowledge from spine science. And we are super proud to participate to the Bio Hackathon with preprints and Nassim that is working on our AI agent. So, the 2015 Nobel Prize, Ryan?
Yes. Oh no, I don't know who got the 2015 Nobel Prize. No, I know of it, but I don't know who got it. Who got it?
It's a Chinese woman named Tu Yu, and this Chinese pharmacologist, she went to very old manuscripts of the 4th century in China, just a therapeutic, very old ancestral medicine, and she just read this manuscript, and she found that there was a plant that was used to cure fever. And from this plant, Ji Hong, she extracted the adromycin, which is the most powerful anti-malaria drugs currently.
I had no idea. Yeah, what is it? Artemisinin. I don't know how. I've only ever read it. I've never pronounced it. But yeah, I mean that's an incredible anti-malarial. That's an incredible anti-malarial.
So going to this old knowledge, let's go to this old and lost knowledge. And we call this project Spine Indiana Jones. Everybody in the world that have access to all therapeutic manuscripts from Latin America to Asia, and you can find a gem that we will record, and we will do through OCR. We will numerize and digitize this content, and our AI agent fleet will do the embeddings, do the synthesis, and also generate scientific hypothesis. We began in an old treaty of spinal cord disease of 1821 in the French Academy of Surgery. And we found that you have some inflammatory receptor from the gut that are exactly the same in the spinal cord. And our AI agent told us, hey, look at this link between gut and spinal cord. hey, I'm like, hello, Microbiome DAO, let's go, let's work together. This is real bridge between the old knowledge and modern science.
Wow, how crazy! So you found a link. So you found a link between a receptor in the gut that is also an inflammatory response with GERD that is also in the spine.
Exactly, and the AI agent is suggesting that we will do deeper research, and is also able to check the literature on the gut and on the spinal cord to do some link and to drive the science.
Is there any way to know what it might be? I mean, maybe some inflammatory role for that receptor in the spine. Is that what the AI was kind of speculating on, or?
Yeah, because basically this treaty is on observational case. And this observational case shows that people usually that have inflammatory cord and spinal cord problem had also inflammatory guts problem in the 19th century. So we can do that for every kind of manuscript or thesis. And we are launching this like Golacam Chemol, like Pokemon Go, I don't know, in order to...
Vincent, there's a lot of topics here. Like it's blowing my mind a little bit. The fact that the AI basically took an old insight, right, from an old French manuscript, and then updated it and found actually these two receptors are linked. And so, the immediate question, I'm sure you've already done this, right? You've already done this thinking. What happens if you start treating these patients who have GERD? Do they tend to have lower back pain or back pain? And does it improve once you start treating them?
Let's start a study.
Okay. I mean, for those of you that obviously remember, no, this is not medical advice. You've got GERD, and you have GERD, and you have back pain. There may be a link. So maybe get your GERD treated, and your back pain might improve. I mean, I'm sure we can check, right, with an AI. I'm sure we could kind of look through the studies and look to see if patients who've been treated with GERD who've complained about back pain, probably in some data set at the back or like somewhere, there's probably some data there that basically goes, oh, and weirdly enough, their back pain decreased, or some comment somewhere where it might actually prove out that insight.
Nobel Prize, Ryan. Nobel.
Nobel Prize. And then I want to make sure these concepts, we don't lose these concepts because they're so interesting, so innovative, right? And then the separate one is actually taking ancient, and this isn't necessarily ancient. This is manuscripts in other languages, which are typically not accessible for all scientists around the world, right? Like you mentioned, France is a perfect case. I remember when I was studying genetics, there was a bunch of really great old manuscripts in German, and my German wasn't good, so I couldn't read them myself. But I knew that there were insights around genetics that were probably being missed. But I was like, I can't sit there and translate. And at the time, this was a long time ago, so I couldn't hand translate, the manuscripts. But now, if we can basically take all manuscripts across the world in every language, standardize it so that it's machine readable and readable in your language, whatever your language might be, right? All of a sudden, information sharing gets transformed, and data finding. You can read all the Chinese manuscripts because you don't have to speak Mandarin yourself, right? You can just get the AI to do it. And in fact, the AI will read it better and deeper and faster than you. So it can just tell you what the insights are, and then you can start doing tests and running studies. So it's like, this is the first time I've heard of it personally, of using it as I guess a tabula rasa. Yeah, I think that's that old biblical term, right? Where you basically, you can read all languages with one. And so that is this, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And so there is like obviously those are like, they can be perceived as different tools, but they all work together like through the AI agency. But, we talk about the fact that you can read like super old manuscripts that are like not even digitized. So we're going to have a crew of people like traveling the world and like taking picture and converting like the very old semantic to new one and checking the modern literature, like does it make sense versus not. But then like going back to the amount of publication that we have like every day, there is what we call like the spine digest. So we have an agent that is doing like literature analysis, and you can actually query and say like, okay, I want to know like what's new over the last week, and you get a report of like the most relevant like new publication.
Amazing. So you could have like a digest, like a weekly or daily digest. What what was this week's, this month's news, insights, and you can tailor it to yourself, right? If you're a spine surgeon, if you're trying to develop, if you have an specific area of research, it just gives you updates in that area of research. It understands context, which that has never existed. That has never existed in the history of medicine. That has never existed, right?
Yeah, and it's already online. You can check SpineDAO.com, go to Spine Archive, and take your digest on the weekly and monthly. And we want to also maybe do a literature review podcast every month to have a key opinion leader on the spine field, and like having all these highlights monthly to do the spine show. And I think it could be exciting.
And Vincent, the community is already global, right? Like the community that you and Virginia have been developing is already a global community, right? Community of people interested in spinal surgery, spinal development, people who have spinal issues, who want help and want to be involved in the answer and the solution. I think there's nothing more powerful than proactive patients. We have the power. You are not just a patient, but you are someone that can do things in the world and make a difference in your own, because there are very talented people who maybe are not spine surgeons or biomedical engineers, but they might be computer programmers or AI specialists, or they're just really passionate and willing to put the time and the work in to run a podcast, to learn, and that's the beauty of these DAOs, right? Because these are large global communities of very different types of thinkers.
Absolutely. Patients are not customer for us. They are contributor, because they can define their pain. And we can link their pain generator to the type of pain that they have. We can have a better understanding of how does it work, of the outcome of a specific treatment. It could be surgical or non-surgical, but we need their testimony and to have like a better insight of what we are doing with them. So they are definitely a contributor, and we want also to protect their data. And we are totally convinced with Virginia and all the core team and all people that work in Spine DAO are definitely convinced that blockchain technology it's the guardian of AI agent, and it guarantees protection of the data, of patient data, but also we want to create a smart consent form, like a consent form that say, you can use my data. So first of all, for us, the patient is the exclusive owner of his data. Yep. There is no other owner than the patient, and he puts his data at our disposal for us to make a research progress. But we want to use blockchain to say, does the patient allow that we use his data? Yes, no. But if we can use his data, who can use the data? Researcher, industry, insurance, institution. He can choose, and every choice he makes is put on chain, and he can serve as a guardian, because an institution with his public address want to check the data. If the patient say no, he can't. They can't.
Yeah, the code is law. The code is law. Like the smart contract, the code is law. So it's only allowable the things that the patient has approved with a smart consent form. I love that idea. That's, again, new to me, right? A smart contract consent form. Cool.
Smart,
and they can change their mind like anytime. So they can say, you know what?
Yeah, you can go back. You can go back to the smart contract, I guess, with your wallet, right? You go back with your phantom wallet or whatever, and you go, hey, I've changed my mind. I don't want anyone to have access to my data, and it's done. Or you can change your mind later and say, actually, you know what? I really care about this one specific project. I'm going to give them all access to my data, right?
Exactly.
And then we want them to have a voice, because right now, we identify a few area of focus, but it's based on clinician or researcher. Maybe the patients have a different need, and that's why, Vincent say, those are the patients are contributor. So actually, at the core of Spine DAO, at one point, you need to go back to them and say, where do you want us to go? Which direction will matter for you?
Honestly, Virginia, sounds amazing. I mean, one of my main frustrations with 23andMe, my data's on there, right? Like everyone else's, many millions of people. And I wanted to shop around. I had my data, I had my SNPs, and I wanted to shop around. I wanted to take my data and give other companies or groups or projects access to my data, because I'd love more insights on myself. And I couldn't really do it. It was so clunky, so unuseful, right? There were a couple of online services, but I didn't trust them. And like, it was a shame. I had very specific data about myself. Millions of other people do, 100 plus million. I even have my own genome. And I found that the tools to analyze ourselves, even worse, by the way, with medical records are like, behind multiple walls, and you can't easily extract your own medical records. I would love to have sovereign data, right? I think many of us would, right? Where it's like, I have all my data, and by the way, I would make it all available, open source. I would literally say, go to town. George Church did this. Go to town. Here's my entire genome. Here's all my medical data. My blood sugar's a little high. Yes, I have this. I have that. I have recessive for that. Great. Let's put the data out there. Let's analyze it. Let's think about it, and let's see how we can improve not just things for myself, but like for everyone, right?
Yeah. And we need to talk about that, because you have some people, and it's well shared in our generation. I don't have any trouble sharing my data, except the fact that my insurance can take my blood pressure and say, well, you're a spine surgeon, you look tired. Your blood sugar is a little bit high. It will cost a little extra for your month. So
that's the problem. So maybe we need to anonymize it because of that, right? Because the insurance companies and whatever else. But like, the idea that we could have sovereign data and the ability for individuals to choose to share their data, to get value out of their data, because there's lots of different models, right? There could be one model where if someone helps develop a new procedure or a new software program, there's potentially benefits for them there, right? Yeah. And obviously with Spine DAO and the tokenomics, I know you've been thinking about that too, right?
And if we can generalize this strategy to other specialty like Imagine DAO, Hip DAO, Shoulder DAO, we could be some pioneer in this field and shoot out to data lake, because we met Wojciech Sierowski, and he and his team, they are literally genius, and we just need our auction to finish, to begin the work, and there will be like a huge news to come, because if we manage to do that, we can manage to do our prospective enrollment with all our patients, and then we can have like a validation of our prototype, and then we can move on in the commercialization of our prototypes.
And Vincent, this is for the screening prototype, right? So the prototype you're talking about is basically, it's a software program using AI to screen spine surgery candidates to try and kind of lower costs, speed up access to care, and then potentially help others that may not be suitable for surgery, right? To get to connect with other providers so that they can at least, if they can't have surgery, they can have other things met. Like I found, thankfully, so far so good, physiotherapy has really helped my back. And it turned out, I think many people have this problem where in today's world where we're behind desks most of the time, we're not moving as much as we used to. I think a lot of us are getting lower back problems because our backs are just weakening. As we get older, as you're young, you don't quite get the challenges of that weakening. But as you get older, you get, the muscles get weaker, right? We know that muscles atrophy over time and with age. If you don't use them.
That's why you need exercise more when you're old. But going back to the
good reminder for all of us, right?
Good reminder. But like going back to the filter project, it's an AI agency. You have 3 AI agents. You have a chatbot that chat with the patient to gather the data. You have the predictive model that calculates the surgical candidacy. It's a probability to have a surgery within a year. And you have an agent that takes the appointment from the predictive model and gives the appointment to the patient. So it's like some technological brick that are super easy to perform, except the predictive model that you need to have like a patient data, and you need to have we already have for our prototype, but we need a real prospective data collection with follow-up to have a good rate of the power to discriminate surgical patients. And also, we want to labelize all this data, not only from surgeon, but also from pain manager, from rheumatologist, to have a solution for the 90% that are not surgical candidates. I mean, we need to have a pathway for them to solve their problem.
I think that would be transformational, right? Like, because it could serve the individual consumers, patients who have that 90% who have need, and there's some solution that you're proposing. And then for the 10% or less that need surgery, then you have a path for them to get quick surgery to address their needs. So it's very powerful. My assumption is that this will be available probably as a freemium model, and there'll be some tied to tokenomics with Spine DAO. At the beginning of these kind of, the way you've described it is kind of like a swarm. Now the new popular thing is AI swarms. So you have like multiple agents that do different things. So the AI swarms, and that will help drive value for Spine DAO, right? Because the community itself will deploy these products, and this is just the beginning of the types of products. So as people are thinking about, buying tokens at Spine DAO, what should they be thinking about? Taking part in the community, what's kind of your pitch to them about why get involved with Spine DAO?
I mean, join the Spine Club. We're like a tennis club, and if you want to drive the research, if you want to contribute, if you want to labelize data, if you want also to share your data, having some insight, get Spine token, and also our product will be sold partly in Spine token. We want to build a circular economy where our product is partly in a stablecoin, partly in our utility token, and partly in IPT of each project. So every guys that have an IPT, they can receive rewards monthly from the profit, the monthly profit, and we aim to have a huge buying pressure for the user, because the user of our products, they will have to take Spine token in the market.
Awesome.
Join the Spine Club, Ryan.
All right. Yeah, that sounds good to me. I'm sold on the idea of all the innovations you just mentioned on this pod, and from our previous conversations. I cannot wait to see this tabula rasa, spine, the spine publication, spine archive, all of those kind of things. I'm very excited by it. So thank you both so much for joining us. This is another episode of DeSci Pilled, and looking forward to seeing a successful Spine DAO auction. So
thank you, Ryan.
Thanks both. You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Ryan. Have a good one.
Take care. You too. Bye.